All right. Hey, good to see you, Lisa. I'm here with another
Sure.
interview with Lisa Kyser from boomama.com. We're going to talk about her journey and experience in working with me at Retail Revolution. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Um, Really excited to talk to you. So, I kind of just want you to sort of take people back, just kind of what your business was like before you met me or saw one of my ads or anything like that.
Well, I would say, Sarah, before I met you, it was a little bit like a hobby that turned into a fast, uh, sort of growing entrepreneurship that I really realized that I love and I wanted to do more than make it sort of a sidekick hobby. I really enjoyed what I was creating, but I just was missing some tools. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, but this type of business was so different. Retail was so different for me. So I needed some guidance and really didn't know where to start and how to grow and how to branch out, how to reach publicists and magazines, and also just the people. I just needed to know how to network and talk to other people that were in the same boat as me and how to problem solve.
It can be confusing. I
Yes.
mean, so had you tell us a little bit about like what your sales were like? Were you just selling at like farmers markets or out of the back of your car or your garage or,
Well,
where were you selling before we met?
I was just starting to sell at farmers markets. I was basically selling to friends and family first because
Hmm.
I wanted to test out my I guess my creativity and if my product had any life to it. So
Candles. You
yeah,
started with the candles.
yeah,
Yeah.
with candles. And my story started because I just was so prone to headaches from chemical fragrances. So living in Malibu, it just inspired me to create. And so then I really got into it and started liking the creative process, but also realized like I don't know, and I don't just have the skills to grow this like I started envisioning. And I'm a big thinker, so sometimes I have to like I need assistance in bringing my thoughts and big ideas into small digestible parts. So yeah, that's what I needed the help with is kind of breaking that down into small digestible pieces where I could grow.
Got it. And also, candles are heavy. So, like, schlepping those to farmers markets or in-person other events is a lot of work and a lot of up and down and heavy boxes and things like that too, I would imagine.
It is. It takes a lot of manpower to set up just a
Yeah.
farmer's market table, a tent.
Yeah.
I mean, thank goodness I had, my kids were home for the summer. I remember when I launched it and they were like, oh my God, Mom, they were just like, this is a lot of work. I know, I know.
You're crazy, mama.
Yeah, you're nuts. But they actually had fun seeing me, seeing they love the products too. So they had fun.
Yeah. Good. So, how did you find me?
I want to say that it was an Instagram uh, ad that I was just swooping on Instagram and came across you. And Sarah, honestly, it was like your face and your just believability, you just had just a warm face and you were female. And I just kept seeing it and I was like, she's got something. And I don't know, it was like you were calling, it was like the ad was speaking directly to me and I needed to answer this calling, you know?
Yeah. Oh, good. That's good to hear because I do.
Yeah.
I want to speak to people like
Yeah,
you.
you did. You did, definitely.
Yeah. And so obviously that's what made you decide to click on the ad and then
Mhm.
you went to
I
my video.
I clicked on the ad and then I went to the video and then I think I even went to the website and I've worked with a consultant before in another type of in the music business and it's so different. Um,
Mm,
so this was really, I don't know, it just spoke to me and the fact that I saw you showing your success and how you did it without paying exorbitant amounts of money. Um, yeah,
zero.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it just was like almost like too good to be true. But then I was like, there's got to be a way because so many people are, have success or so many people are failing. So I
Oh,
just wanted,
oh, yeah.
yeah, I wanted to know what the truth was out there and how to do it.
I mean, when you were watching the video, like what about it made you want to book a call with me? Just because I was a woman who was showing you the path that you thought you wanted to go down, or
I think that was it. That also I could really relate to you in a sense because in my I've been a film producer for a long time, and you were in costume design. I thought this is so interesting because you started with not being, I mean, in your field, but sort of
sort of?
Sort of, yeah. And so
Yeah.
that sort of, I think, is what made me feel like I was connecting with you, that you figured it out and you put the work in figuring it out.
Hmm.
And I also, what made me, I think, book the call is I think you say something in the video that, like you put in all the time and, being able to share it with others so that I don't actually have to put in
Yeah.
that hard ground, I mean, it's still, really hard work owning your own business, but
Of
I just
course.
felt like if she has the roadmap, I'm coachable and I am just always a team player. And also like, I believe in surrounding myself with people that know way more than me. So
That's the way to go.
yeah,
Me too.
I just felt like you could coach me.
Yeah.
You were the person that I needed. So I think
Oh,
that's
thank you.
what really drew me to you is seeing
Yeah.
your success and seeing your pictures with the stars holding your bags and you saying I didn't, pay these crazy agencies to get me this success.
Hmm. Yeah. It was so much harder back in the day. Now
Oh,
it's
I'm
like
sure.
ding, send an email. Before it was like games of telephone. Do you represent so and so? And it was really it was a long process. And then, you finally like, oh, I know who it is, send it off, and then it's
Yeah.
like praying to see a photo in a magazine because there was nothing else to see.
No,
Um,
I can kind of
but
relate just trying to get through agents' doors where they don't
mhm,
care about you. They get 100 calls a day that are seem to be more important. So,
yeah.
it's just trying to figure out how to break that glass window down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you had a
It's
map.
there's a map. Yeah. I love sharing my map. Well, so how did it feel like how did it feel when you first got started in the program? Like what was kind of like your biggest sense of relief or learning moment?
I think that there's been several of those. I mean, almost weekly, I would say, because every time I'm on a weekly call with, the other members, I learned something from them that I didn't know, and that part is great on a weekly basis. But I would say when I first had my call with you, I felt just a sense of relief because you broke it down in real layman terms, like man on the street kind of deal, And so that to me, that's how I converse and understand things. So it wasn't like this scientific, you know, I mean, it was scientific.
Brouhaha, like
Yeah,
let
yeah,
me
that like, oh my God,
mysteriousize you. Yeah.
yes, yeah. It was just a follow this map, do your homework. And I think that the homework at first seemed a little overwhelming because I had to watch things in step. But also, once I started, it was the material was so interesting and so compelling that I swear I think I went through it in like a week. It was like I was
All
just,
9 weeks.
yes, like all 9 weeks. And but obviously I had to go back and re-listen and redo things. But it was just so interesting. And I wanted to learn. I really
Mm,
wanted to hear more of what you were saying and what the next step was going to be so that I could kind of like picture my roadmap visually of what I had to do. So I think that, um, just knowing that about you and how you conversed and spoke just really related. It was relatable to me.
mm. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Um, what do you like best about like you were talking about how it's all laid out systematically. So do you feel like it's it's kind of like a paint by numbers, or it's systematic and that's how your brain works? Or what was it about like the layout of the program that kind of clicked for you?
I think I think that having to go through a few steps, like I'm trying to remember the name of the chapter, but the learning how to price things
Hmm.
was
Price to
just
profits.
price to profits. Yes, that chapter was I don't know, it was very, the whole program is so systematical and paint by numbers from it. That's why it resonated with me. But also when I got to some of the chapters where it's like you have to do this before you do this, and you have to know, like what I loved is like if I want to make $150,000 a year, how do I get there?
Hmm.
How many stores do I need to be in? How many of my products? Things like that that I'm just like we're always like I just didn't have an understanding, you know,
Sure. Well, and I think
how
a
to
lot
get
of
there.
people too think about their gross revenue and like some sexy number. Oh, I want to do $1 million.
Yeah.
And if I said to someone, well, what will that put in your pocket? 99% of people are like, I don't know. And to me, that's always the kind of the backwards way of thinking about it, right? Like, how much
Yeah.
do you want to put in your pocket? And then let's figure out the roadmap to get there.
Yeah. And I think that was the kind of the light bulb moment for me that, of course, we all want our businesses to make millions of dollars, but what do I need to live on to be able to sustain the bit, well, my lifestyle and also the
Sure.
business and grow it. And I think that that was like really, really, really a big moment for me, that chapter. So I spent a
Because
lot.
it's not always the big number that is what you
Yeah.
need, right?
Yeah.
It's what you actually really want in your pocket and then work backwards. So yeah,
Yeah.
I when that dawned on me one day, I was like, "Oh my God, this is like the secret to life."
It is. It
I
was
don't
like the
have to do
secret.
$1 million to make a living,
Yeah.
and especially when you're looking at the size of your company, and I know you run a tight ship and you don't have, 20, 30 employees or anything yet at this point. So, what do you think is your biggest win so far?
Um, Let me see. I think that my biggest win has been uh not necessarily the dollar sign, but the learning how to like the GMAS stuffs, just the simple task of learning how to send out mass emails so that it's given me more time to focus on other parts of my business, to take that massive I mean, that task away.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a task that, I've learned from you how to set up weekly, and then it's sort of automated. And that has given me more time to do other things. So I think that's a huge win for me. And also getting in a few magazine articles, that's, you know, huge. So um, those two things. And then I guess my first wholesale sale that came from
Hmm.
someone clicking on my email, me
Yeah.
calling them back, and that, it was not a huge sale, but it was my first one. And so that just made me feel validated, you know?
Sure. And willing to take the next step, right? Because
Yeah.
once you get one, you're like, wow, that wasn't that hard. I didn't have to embarrass myself or, dance naked somewhere to get someone's attention, right? You're like, it actually
Yeah.
works when you do the system. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad. I'm really glad.
Yeah.
So where's your business these days? Like kind of like what's sort of like your weekly tasks, like how do you spend your time now? Like I know you've created a lot more, some other new scents for the candle line from what you started when we first met, and you've added perfumes, and so talk a little bit about how you've grown your brand and like what made you decide to do that.
Well, I've decided to go into the perfume area after candles because I met a woman who is a French trained perfumer, and she's here in LA, and I just love, she's just a really cool person. But I was telling her about my fragrance issues and all the chemical issues, and she said, Lisa, come to my lab here in Venice, and I want you to smell some of my fragrances and oils, and I was like, I was kind of scared. So went over there. I smelled over 300 fragrances.
Oh
Did
my
I
gosh.
know I was worn out from smelling the fragrances, but
Fragrance, coffee, fragrance.
I think it's coffee. Yes, yeah, and but I learned that like you can have chemical free, non-toxic, non-triggering fragrances. And so she helped me create my first fragrance. Then I just got the confidence, but I also know that I'm not a trained perfumer. So I need a little, like Molly, my partner who helps me with that. And then, so the perfumes have started to grow. And then my big idea again is launch a, Boom Mama Beauty. So I'm now creating a beauty line, which is more body products like, you know, shower scrub, body butter, hand soap, and a hand cream. So I'm in the middle of that. And during this whole development stage is when, the tariffs happen.
Yeah.
And so, thank God, that's another moment. Thank God I've had you to help walk me and some of your other members through the tariffs and how to deal with this. And now I feel confident that my stuff is going to arrive. I'm going to be okay. And it's all gonna, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just been, that's another one of those moments. So, thank you. Thank God
Yeah.
and I know you had to do a lot of the hard work for us to figure all that out, but putting us in touch with the experts has been a huge relief. So I feel good about that. And I was actually just up on a call before this with my lab that's creating the fragrances. So for those new products,
Yeah. That's
excited.
so
And
exciting.
yeah, and I feel like I've got some stores that I've already started sending the decks out to for those
Yeah.
products. And I've gotten, they're like, please send us samples when you have it ready. So I'm already I'm learning to be able to get ahead of some things, which has been
Yeah.
a huge help with your course.
That's so great. I'm so excited to see you guys like branching
Yeah, it's
out
been
into
fun.
other parts of the body. Can't wait to
Yeah,
see those.
I'll send you some.
Yeah.
Send
Okay.
you some.
Good. I love to try stuff.
Yeah,
I've got all my
of
little
course.
things that I try from people.
Good.
It's funny. It's like working with all these different brands, sometimes people ask, can I send you something? I'm like, of
Yeah.
course, I'll look at it, tell you what I think, I can return it if you want or whatever. No, just keep it, do it. And
Yes.
then other people, never offer to send you anything. And and I always think, well, if I was working with somebody like me, I'd want them to check out
Yes.
what I'm doing.
You've got a box
um
on the way.
yeah. And just be able to, because sometimes I
Yeah.
think I always felt like you want to get as many people's eyes on things,
Hmm.
as you can, or, the sniffer going, or, feeling the lotions
Yeah.
or whatever. And I know that you have worked really hard to keep the non-toxicity factor with your brand and are
Yes.
really proud of all of those, um, your all of your different certifications that you have and the things that really feel are important to you and why you really started it kind of, and like the crux of the whole linchpin essentially to your brand
Yeah.
was
You.
your own sensitivity, right? Which I think a lot of people, like somebody will say, oh, well, my child had eczema, so I created pajamas that don't make kids itch, or, cream,
Yeah.
or, and that things in
Backstory.
life, right, happen and make you move on, right? Like I started my business on a dare. It was, and you never know what's going to be that linchpin that just makes you just open up and just say, I have to share my product with the world.
I
Um,
know it is weird. Like I never thought I would be in doing this 10 years ago. I mean, even 5 or 6 years ago, I didn't think. But another thing that like, I mean, talking about certifications, like just on our call that we had this week or last week, you were looking at my website and you were like, Lisa, why don't you have this Leaping Buddy certification right here, right here, right here, right here on your website? And I'm like, why don't I?
Oh
Like,
gosh.
you know?
I
And
know.
so I'm like, that's what I've been working on. And like, I think that it's just one of those things that having, somebody else's eyes that's, an expert like you, things that you just sometimes just aren't thinking of and
Hmm.
it are going to make a big difference. I think that is going to actually make a bigger difference in my, when people are on my website.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's funny, like what you were saying about coming onto the calls, the weekly calls, and listening to other people.
Mhm.
Well, it's funny, to me, it's some of my favorite times of the week because I never know who's going to be there, what kind of questions people are going to have, right? And,
Which
what I'm going to
amazes
have
me
to, yeah,
that
like,
you're like just
somebody
throwing stuff
said,
at you.
should I be sending my questions ahead of time? I was like, no, 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 you don't have to. It's better for me if you just throw it at me. And, and sometimes I might have to say, I don't know, I have to look it up or I need to call somebody.
Yeah.
But it keeps me on my toes. But I also like we have those little moments where you bring one thing up and then, I hadn't looked at your site in a while. And then I go and I'm like, wait, that's missing. And you're like, oh my God, okay, we got to fix that right away. But it's not something that is 3 years from now, right?
Right.
Where nobody's looked at it. And you were like, why doesn't anybody know that about me? And
Yeah.
it's being out there and not being afraid, I think, to overshare in a way with people because the world is fast. We're all, usually like you got 3 to 7 seconds to grab someone's attention, right?
Hmm.
And just thinking about all those different aspects of your business, and I just love hearing what people are doing all the time because it keeps me on my toes too, and sometimes I'll think, wow, I've got to, make a new module about this or, update something there because times have changed, right? It was like during
Right.
COVID, I was adding modules about drop shipping and how to deal with, stores not buying and,
Oh,
doing
wow.
extra like webinars and calls and like trying to get people through that drama and trauma, right? And then now it's been the tariffs, and like in my time, it was 9/11, and then the
My God.
2008 collapse, and but it's kind of like you have to look, I think, head on at all of these, bumps in the road, so to speak. I
Hmm.
try to not think of them as like full on disasters, but they can be,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, how do I climb out of this disaster? But kind of going back to what you were saying in the beginning about how we both worked in film, is
Hmm.
I always say my film training was the best training I ever had because I always learned never to take no for an answer because you'd
Yep.
probably get fired. So, so it gave me that,
Absolutely the truth.
right? It gave me that momentum, I think, and drive and persistence that I
Doesn't it?
just was I grew up in. Like I started in the film business when I was 22, right out of college. It's like all the guys on the set used to pat me on the head. Oh, you're just so young. What are you doing here? I'm like trying to make a living, and I want to learn. And it was, learning, watching people and trying to emulate what they were doing, right? And
Mhm.
like, wow, don't take no for an answer. Okay, and when you have the right teacher, for me, like that was the biggest thing, And so I think I just appreciate you saying that that you kind of look at me that way because that's what I
Oh,
want to
totally.
do, be for people because I had the best mentors when I worked in film, and I feel like, they laid that foundation for me to launch my business, because I just left film as soon I was kind of doing it at night and on the weekends, my handbags. And then I got this big order from Anthropology. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I was like, I'm quitting my job, and I didn't even really know if I had a business. I just knew I had this order,
Yeah. Wow.
and I just sort of took the leap and jumped off the bridge. And but I think it was everything that I'd learned along the way about the never take no, which is why that's one of the things I'm like constantly saying, just keep going, keep asking until they tell you to lose their phone number, you keep on them. you
One,
know
one thing that happened to me in the film business is like I broke into an agency basically, not, on the phone
yeah.
because I kept calling and finally this agent said, "Look, you've called me every day and I'm going to call you back because what the hell do you want?"
Yeah.
And I told him, and we literally did an indie movie. I mean, he took my call and then he was like, okay,
Yeah.
send stuff to my assistant. And then it took him forever to read it, but I bugged him again. And then the next thing you know, we're making a deal. So sometimes you have to knock on that door a lot. And I
Hmm.
think that part of making our weekly calls to retailers, yeah, I had that a little bit of that experience, but also I was a little bit scared to do it.
Heck yeah.
You
I was
know,
scared for years.
really? And I was like,
Yeah.
I kind of not kind of, I avoided it for several weeks. And then I was like, I got to get over this. And you gave us just how to do this, is how you do it. I
Hmm.
mean, stand up, smile when you're talking. I mean, little
Yep.
things like that,
Yeah.
like, and follow the script for a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah. You
And
have to follow it till it just sort of rolls off your tongue,
yes,
right? And
yes,
and then you feel more
have the
comfortable with
confidence.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then you
it's
put
kind
it
of
in your
like when
own,
you first learn your elevator pitch, everyone kind of
yes.
learns that, right? Is when you're starting business. And,
Mhm.
if somebody else writes it for you, like, or even AI writes it for you, it's not your voice and your heart
Correct.
speaking. So, it's somebody once wrote something for me years ago, and I was like, I can't say this. It doesn't naturally roll off my tongue. It doesn't feel like it's actually coming out of my mouth. I feel like I have to read this like a robot. And I realized in that moment, it's like when things happen, you realize how you have to evolve, right? And
Mhm.
some people are really good, right? They're like
Yeah,
super natural born like actress, right?
absolutely.
And they could just read anything, make it sound just like, it came from their heart. But I'm just not one of those people. I really have to. I do much better just like talking like this, to me it
Mhm.
feels more natural, but trying to read something, and I did that in the beginning, like especially when I didn't know how to do it when with my handbag company, but when I
Right.
started my Sarah, Simply Sarah with my handbag hanger, I was like, okay, I need a system here. Like this, I need to organize myself because I just like flew by the seat of my pants with that other business. And but when I really sat down and was like, what do I need to say? Because I was selling a
Mhm.
product that people didn't know, right? They'd
Right.
never seen it. It was a patented product. So I had to figure out how to sell it. And so it really made me learn everything I teach today, because you have to know how to talk to the person and what you're going to say and have this plan. Whereas, with the handbags, it was like, do you like it? You don't? Great. Do you like this one instead? Right. And there was always something else to throw at people. So I
Yeah.
never felt kind of pigeonholed into like, how do I sell this one thing? And so I feel like, you know, with you, with your candles, right? It's one thing, but there's different scents, right? Then you've got your perfumes with the different scents. Now you're going to have your skincare, bath and body, right? With different scents, so
Hmm.
that you're not just, oh, you like the jasmine or whatever. Well, it comes in candles and perfume and this and that. And,
Hmm.
and you can put together a whole package for people. So it feels like a really big collection to me. And
Well, thank
I'm
you.
glad to see you going that way. Yeah.
Well, and just made me think of several other things. But first of all, Sarah, you have a gift. Like you literally have a gift. Like I feel like you were put on this planet to do this. That's why I feel so
No,
connected with what I've learned. Like you really have a gift. I've learned so much from you. I'm so grateful that I found you. And
thank
I
you.
feel, yeah, you're welcome. I mean, I just feel like you're so easy to talk to. There's so many different people from all over the world in on our calls, and you have a gift for breaking things down, really simplifying things, and um, you know, where I feel like every week somebody on the call is having one of those aha moments,
Yeah.
and then
Often a trauma and then the aha moment.
exactly,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of trauma, like a lot of
Yeah.
panic, going on
Yeah.
the Monday morning calls,
Yeah.
and you're like calming everybody
Yeah.
down, like hang on,
Yeah.
let's stick to the facts, like just let's get
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
you have to for that, but also
Thank you.
you're welcome. Another thing is like I think that I've learned from you is it's really not selling yourself, which I think that we have this issue with when we're doing these calls. It's really believing in your product. And I think that with candles and fragrances, it's hard for people to buy those over the phone or even on
Hmm.
a website because you can't smell
Yeah.
them. So you've come up with so many ideas for me to circumvent that or to get those smells in people's hands. Tiny little, yeah.
Thanks.
So those are
Yeah.
huge helps for me.
Oh, good. Yeah, because the internet is so cold, right? I
So
mean,
cold.
full on freezing. And how you warm those connections up, right? When you're not, if you don't have, if you have a media placement and that editor is saying, hey, go get some boo mama, whatever, right? You're they get there and they're warm, right? It's not a cold
Yes.
lead. They've already been sent there by a trusted source. It would be like if I said to my bestie, "Oh, go get one of Lisa's candles. You're going to love this. It's my house smells great." They
Yeah.
come and their trust wall is down, right? So
Yep.
it's hard. That's why, like with anything smelly, right? I always say you got to get press for yourself, get people to talk about it,
Yep.
get the sense out there to people, get people feeling and trying and burning. And that's why people, I think, tend to feel like farmers markets and places like that are better for them with
Yeah.
a scented product because you're burning it or people are trying it or whatever. But you can only be in so many places at once. And it's harder, I think, to sell one thing online or two things at a farmer's market than send a dozen to a store, right?
Yeah.
And even if the effort to get into the store might have felt a little overwhelming in the beginning, the result in the end is usually a way bigger financial gain than selling the one piece online that,
Absolutely.
you know, the
Yeah.
person happened upon you or somebody referred them. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's why I'm trying to like focus a little bit more on the wholesale other than the retail because of that. I've also learned that and that's been fun. I mean, um I think that part for me is like a little bit more exciting because it's a different type of puzzle, you know,
mhm.
and you have a little bit more control over it, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that and but they're two completely separate animals. So, I've had to learn that too. And thank God you've got the roadmap for that as well.
Yeah, but at the same time, right, you've got wholesale here and media
And
and online sales, and it just makes up that whole
yeah,
ecosystem to
yes.
make the business actually flourish. Because sometimes when one is up, the other's down.
Oh, yeah, always.
It's never going to be always equal, right?
Yeah.
And
Like your kids
you
being
could
in a good mood at the same time.
exactly right. And so it's right, or everyone being ready for dinner at the same
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
And so but it's interesting how, once you get people into your ecosystem, essentially, right, how it really can expand. If you get into a store, then you can tell everybody, and maybe someone who came in from some media placement lives in Chicago, and you just get into a store in Chicago, and they're like, "Yo, friends, this stuff's in
Just-
Chicago. You got to go get it, or send me one, or whatever, right? Or go smell that and tell me if I'll like it." So you kind of, in a way, I feel like your ecosystem can become your own social site, right?
Yep.
Because you're feeding these people, hey, we're in this store, we're in this magazine, guess what, right? And then the people who don't know you, who come in through the media, when they see you're in a store like Chicago, they can tell their friends, and then they're sort of referring them, right? So it's kind of a warm lead going
Warmly.
there.
Yeah.
And then your stores are like, wow, all these people are coming in asking for your stuff. I'll take more. Right. And you're like, rock on. And
Yeah. Rock
so,
on.
yeah. And so it gives you all these things to post on social and people to tag, and it gets you out of like your own just posting about yourself.
Yes.
Right.
Which is,
And
I hate to do. It's like making you feel like you're trying to sell yourself instead of your product, you know?
right. And I think making that, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because making the switch from you being kind of, not that you're not the face of your business, because you
Yeah.
are, but you're not selling yourself, you're selling the product that you created. And I
Created.
think people can have a hard time differentiating that.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like when I read people's pitch letters sometimes and they're talking all about themselves and then like down here about the product. I'm like, yeah, forget all that. Let's just
Yeah.
talk
Let's
about
just,
the
yeah.
product. In the big picture, nobody really cares who you
Yeah.
are, unfortunately. As you start to sell to them more, they start to know you and, know who you are. And when
Or-
you pick up the phone, they'll take your call. And, people online start to know who you are as well. So it starts to feel more like family as time
Yeah.
goes on,
No,
but
you're
in the
exactly
beginning,
right.
you're like, I'm not quite a distant cousin yet. You know?
That is
Uh,
exactly what it feels like.
yeah, yeah. Well, so what advice would you give to, other business owners who are in the same place that you were before you got started
Call
with
Sarah.
me? Yeah.
Call Sarah quickly. Get in before it's, you're so overwhelmed with just the day to day, like how you were talking about I mean, I was like, how do I get this ecosystem rolling? Because, like it's like a spinning cycle, but you have to figure out where to start first. Like I just would say, and look, I've had a business that failed before. So I knew with this one, like if I'm going to really do this, I need somebody else that can show me the way. So I
Yeah.
would say, call Sarah. It's not this. It's an investment in your business and yourself and your. Uh, I mean, in your product, and also just when you do, just get on the calls because there are so many Mondays when I'm like, maybe I don't think I have time for the call or I don't have anything to talk about. But every time I'm on, even if I don't have anything to say, I'm always listening to, and I'm like, oh wow, they just went through this. So I learned something about, something that actually comes up in my business like 2 months down the road. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now I know what to do, you know,
Right. Check.
or
Yeah.
check. So it's just you got to have that roadmap. I mean, you really do. So that would be my advice. And to I'm like I said, a big thought person. So having someone that can break down my thoughts in more digestible bites um, is huge for someone like me that thinks that way. So and I think of you as like, I don't know, it's like I just put up my laptop on Mondays and I'm like, come here's
There
some
I
good
am.
stuff. There you are. And it's easy. It's not you know, the commitment time is there, but it's also if you're not going to commit to it, you're going to waste a lot of time doing tasks that are not going to, you're just going to be backpedaling, you know? So I think that my advice would just be call Sarah. That would be it.
Thank you.
You're
Just
welcome.
call me.
Yeah,
Oh, well, thanks so much for sharing your
welcome.
story. I really appreciate it. And can't wait to see the next phase.
Me too. I'm excited and I can't wait to send you some more some products and
Yeah.
I just thank you for taking the time with me. It's been a really like an awesome experience and discovery.
Yay. Would you want to tell everyone how to find you?
Boomama.com, BUMAMA.com or
Yes.
Lisa at boomama.com.
As in Malibu.
As in Malibu. Yes, that's where it came from.
Otherwise known as the Boo for
Babu.
locals. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You're
And
so
you have
welcome.
an awesome rest of your week. And I will see you on
You
the
too.
next call.
Okay.
All
See you later.
right.
Have a good one.
See ya. You
Bye.
too.